Hello there and welcome to the Glow Up Method. My name is Natasha and I'm really excited to be here with you today. It definitely has been a challenge. If you don't know my story, last week there was, I can't say the writing wasn't on the wall. It just is. I think for so many years, I was conditioned to believe that Chris, who is my soon-to-be ex-husband now, was like a boy who cried wolf, right? And, again, I will stand by my story and my version of the story. All I ever really wanted was a partner and a friend. And of course, I wanted other things that led to that, but that was like at my foundation. What I just really, really needed was like a support system, like somebody who was there for me. And it felt like from my perspective, I was always there for him. And now I know in later years, as I gained my own independence, as I learned how to take care of myself, I started realizing and seeing things that were always there. I just kind of had ignored. And so, I didn't fall for the trap anymore. And I'm not saying he was trying to trap me or anything like that. It's just like, if I had expressed, like, hey, when this happens, I feel really sad when, because, and in the future, this is what I need. And a lot of times it would turn back on me and it'd be like, well, great, now you ruined my day or things like that. And so for so long, I just wouldn't say anything. But as I learned to take care of myself, like I've said on here before, right? Like I'm this big anti-bullying advocate, right? And then I realized I was the biggest bully ever. And the person I was bullying was myself. I was just saying and believing the cruelest things about myself. For whatever reason, like I believed what kids said, I believed what adults said, I believed what anybody said in anger, even more so than what I believed when they said in joy, right? I'm not saying that everything Chris ever said to me was bad, but for some reason, I really, really held on to and believed those negative stories that he told about me until I started taking care of myself. So this is why this YouTube, why this podcast, why whatever this is when you're listening to it is so important to me, because I just didn't hear it from somebody at the right time or the right place for such a long part of my life. And now I'm so grateful that after 45 years, I finally was like, oh, I kind of get it. Like I'm starting to get it. And I started to investigate and I started to discover and I started to come alive. I started to experience new things and I realized what self-care meant thanks to therapists and YouTubes and things like that. Like it wasn't about me being in a bubble bath, although sometimes it might be that, but it wasn't this selfish thing that how dare I go eat a lunch by myself and not get everybody lunch and all these things. It wasn't a bad thing. And I was always, whether it be somebody taught me this, it's just the way I learned the world. I really did believe that taking care of me was a bad thing. I thought it was greedy and selfish and unfair. And even if I was doing something like the first few times eating lunch by myself, although I did like it, there was like a loathing. There was like I feel dirty doing this. I feel like I shouldn't be doing this. I feel guilty, and let me still really, order the cheapest thing on the menu and, I'll drink only water. And it took a long time to develop this belief system in which I deserved it. And I think at the end of the day, I really felt like I wasn't worthy of it. And I don't know if you've ever felt like that. And I look at the relationships in my life, and, there's some really key ones in there between my mom and my Chris, not my Chris anymore, but Chris and, my dad and my cousin and even my brother. Like there are so many similar patterns in those relationships. And I very much always played this role where I thought I could help, where I thought I could save them, where nobody asked or wanted my help a lot of times. I just swooped in and did it because I could. I was the problem solver. I was the fixer. And a lot of times I was like very like matter of fact, and a lot of times I was afraid to rock the boat, and I would people please and tell them what I thought they wanted to hear. And of course that doesn't make for a healthy dynamic, right? Like it's not healthy for me, and it's not healthy for them, and it's not healthy for the we. And of course, like those relationships have strife and turmoil in them. And so, where I find myself now, it's been 1 week, and I feel like, okay, it's been 1 week since Chris has been gone. So at the very least, I am 7 days stronger than I was 7 days ago, right? I have done things that I didn't think I could do, or I knew I could do, but I didn't necessarily want to do. Like, did I want to go do all the gardening for 10 hours with a damaged back and that I need to go get steroid shots in because I'm finally like I can't walk? So did I want to do all that? No, but it needs to get done. And for me, one of these things is, again, I've talked about it on here, like when my house is a mess, when my room is a mess, when my car is a mess, it's a reflection of what's going on inside. And right now my house is a mess. Like, and I know that, there was something about the gardening part that was cathartic because I was taking out the dead. I was taking out what was overgrown and like just wasn't tended to. And it was very symbolic for me for our relationship. Like we had overgrown each other, and underneath it, like it looked okay on the outside, but as soon as you peeled back like one layer of green, it was just death underneath, and like it was nothing, and leaves bundled into there, and thorns, and like just brokenness. And so there was something about getting that done that was like, so it just symbolized so much for me. And the project isn't quite done because, my garbage cans can only fit so much, and the green waste and all that. So, it's a project. And, I didn't want to do that. I set out the things that I have to set out. I had to clean out the lint in the dryer, like not just the little one, like this whole lint contraption thing. I've replaced batteries on mechanisms. I didn't even know these mechanisms existed. And so I have had to call and conserve and say, hey, we don't need this big garbage can. And hey, my car insurance is $500 a month for old Bertha here. We don't need all that. Like, what is going on? So, really it has been this, like almost like a trimming of the fat. Like, it was as if everything had gotten so comfortable and nobody really wanted to do the things to, that maybe we should do to like clean house, check house. Like, hey, is there a better way? Because it's like, you're so overwhelmed. And then there's also like that part of you just didn't want to do these things, right? Like it had been on my mental to-do list for months to call into the insurance company. I did it today. I spent maybe an hour and a half on the phone in total between calling each insurance company, comparing the rates, getting everything finalized with the new insurance company. And because, yes, I am a nice person, I am still paying for Chris's insurance. I know, I'm an idiot because he left me with negative $39 in the bank. However, like he had sent a list of things that he wanted. And there's this, my daughter and I are at odds. She's like, just throw it out. Like, get it outside. Who cares? I don't want to see it. I'll take it out. I'm like, first off, I can't move it. Like, I cannot. I have already outdone it. Like our Halloween decor was still up. Today was November the 8th, just to give you some perspective of what's, the timeline here. But today was November the 8th, and the Halloween stuff was still out. And first off, Halloween was always Chris's holiday. And so the fact that it was out, it was just this reminder of him. It was this reminder of, usually it was taken down within the next day or so. And I had already done a chunk of it, but it was the stuff within the gate now and the stuff within the house and now this. And so, for me, it was, again, this another symbolism of like, hey, like, I don't want to do this, but I can. And, you know, this is kind of going to be my life for a little while. It's going to be doing a lot of the necessities, right? I may not have every moment. Like tonight, Tyler needed to get to practice. And so I needed to miss my dance class because Tyler asked Chris and he said, I probably can't. And, you know, like I can be all irritated and be like, well, why can't he? Is he out on a date? What's he doing that's so important you can't take your kid? And especially when you know this is my day, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. Those are my nights. It's 3 nights. But I can't change that, right? And so what is important to me? Well, my son is important to me. He's 16. And as much as like my mind is focused a lot on how much I need to do, I also am focused on the fact that they're going through something. Like everything, they've only known a life with their mom and their dad. Even if it wasn't blissful harmony over here, that's all they know. And that's suddenly changed. You know, it went from, you know, the status quo of us not getting along to sometimes us getting along to suddenly he has a girlfriend and he's moving out and this is it. You know, like all within the matter of hours, days. And I can imagine it's not even that. Like he also has had limited communication with them, and some kids he hasn't even seen at all in a week. And as he isn't someone who travels alone very often, like he's done a couple things or gone to concerts or things like that, like festivals or whatever, but it's unusual. So, you know, like I said, it was important for me to have Tyler have as much continuity as possible. So I asked him, you know, would you mind if your dad took you to school? And if you don't want him to, or he isn't able to, I will take it on. I will do that. And I take him a couple days or one day, sometimes, whatever, it depends. I do some. And Chris is always, not always, but ever since I've done my personal care and like I began to delegate things, like I don't need to take them to school every day and be a good mom. You know, like I felt like before, like with my older two and even partially with Dylan and with Tyler for most of the time until the last, you know, till I was like 45. So a couple years ago, I felt like I needed to do everything, every practice, every meal, every this, and it just ran me haggard. And so as I began delegating things, then I was like, oh, great. This opens up a time where I can go take a walk, or I can go to the gym, or I can take a nap, or, you know, whatever it is I wanted to do or needed to do, I was able to do because I was able to delegate that to their other parent. And I didn't feel, you know, there was a part of me at first that was like, oh, but they're not listening to the good morning playlist on the way to school, and they're not doing this, and they're not, you know, it's not the way it looks for me. But I needed to come to a place and say, but they are still getting to school, you know? And so I needed to be okay with that, or be okay with me feeling like I was drowning for the next, you know, until he graduated. So again, I wanted him to have as much continuity. So he has been able to see his dad in the morning for 10 minutes on the way to school, a couple days a week. And I think that that's good, especially since he is the youngest and they did have a good relationship. I mean, they would watch shows together. They kind of had a goofy personalities together. And I never want to take that from him, either one of them. But it's frustrating, right? I mean, to go from like yesterday where I was like an absolute disaster, right? Like just mentally broke down and just so sad about the situation, to, you know, this morning feeling really angry and pissed off, and you know, like my daughter's telling me, oh yeah, you know, they're still liking each other's pictures and this, and you know, he's not going to be able to go on a Friday night, I bet they're on a date, you know, like, and it makes me mad because I'm like, why is it you so abruptly were able to do things that you never did in 25 years? You know, kudos to you for finally doing it. But like, where was this passion and energy and willingness to do anything when it came to our marriage? Like, I didn't ask for much. Like, I'm telling you, we weren't big ballers here. Like, I'm not asking for much. What I was asking for was like human decency, like somebody to say hi to me, like to make me feel like a person, you know, in the room with you, instead of feeling like I was a big problem and I'm the cause of all the problems. And so, you know, my daughter is very adamant that like, well, mom, you've been emotionally abused and you don't deserve that. And you're worthy of more. And it's really hard to wrap my brain around that because I feel like I'm such a strong and smart and resourceful woman that, like, how can someone like me be emotionally abused? Like, how could I tolerate that? And I can see it, but there's like this, sense of like almost like a denial. Like, no, like, was it? Is it? Like, why do I feel like every time he texts, I need to respond? Or why am I feeling bad for him, yet he's not feeling bad for me? But that's been the role. That's always been the role. And I'm not asking him to feel sorry for me. Again, I see who you are. You have all this money to go and get yourself an apartment and go on dates and make sure you're provided for, but there's nothing for your kids? Not $1, not one dinner? I don't get it. Like, I just can't get it. And I'm trying to understand something I never will understand because it's not the way I think, right? And again, we see it all the time in life, like movies, TV, your friend down the street, oftentimes, not to be like stereotypical, but the men just move on, right? They don't talk to their kids anymore. I mean, it happened with Chris's dad. He would talk to him once every 10 years. Like, my dad remarried. He barely talked to me. Now he talks to me a little bit more, but still not very often, so yeah, I mean, it's just very jarring, but it is very empowering to like get things down. Like, there were so many things that I just relinquished to Chris because I was like, I don't want to do it. Like, I'll do all these other things. I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to deal with Comcast. I don't want to deal with this and that. Like, I always paid the PG&E. I don't want to deal with the cell phones. I don't want to deal with the internet. I don't want to deal with like these things. And so I let him deal with it. And, as a result, I don't know the passwords to get into these things. I don't know the accounts. I don't even know how much the bill is. So calling and trying to get the bills reduced. And I'm like, I'm so excited. I got our garbage bill down by $30 a month. And okay, cool. Now our Comcast, we have less services, but we're down $120 a month. Like, I called BG&E, who's our electric and gas here in where I live, and we got that down $400 a year. And so it's like, I'm doing all these things. My insurance, hopefully we're going to get that one down too. And, it's just it's this very strange time. And so at the same time, right, like, I have this other project I'm working on to try to hopefully cultivate some form of income for our family, right? Because at the end of the day, as this stands, I have 65 subscribers, which is lovely. I adore, and I'm still like, oh my gosh, like, everyone, I got a notification. Sometimes I get notifications for them, sometimes I don't. But today I got a notification for one, and it was like, I really needed that. Like, I know that what I'm doing is the right thing I'm doing. I know that this is leading me on the right path. And sometimes when I watch it back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what was I saying here? Whatever. But this is real and this is raw. And I know that this chapter of my life, right? I know that this is going to help someone else. Like, someone else at some place down the road is going to go through it. Or if anything else, at some day my kids may be curious, like, what was her experience? And now sometimes they are well aware, and I'm working really hard to not be angry, right? Like, my goal is to not let this situation steal my joy, not let it take my fire, not let it dim my light. But there is so many moving parts, and it's just really overwhelming for one person. And the fact that I have 4 kids who are all unemployed by all senses of the word, that are dependent upon me solely, who is also unemployed, it's scary, right? So I'm trying to figure out everything. I'm trying to catch my bearings. I went to 3 doctors this week. I literally can barely move in certain times. And so again, I also believe, remember, I always talk about this, how I do believe like our body holds on to stuff. And I think that this is just so much that, like, in addition to there always being pain there, my hips are just like, oh no, girl, like, this is this. And then ironically, like, when my hips got to this like pinnacle point of pain for me, like, where I'm like, I can't take anymore, I need to go to a doctor's again, and go to another one again, and go to another one again, that is unusual behavior for me. And so the ironic thing about it is, as it got to that pinnacle part, I found out yesterday that my brother had fallen off a roof, like a 12-foot roof, and like shattered his hip and did something with his femur. Now my brother and I are currently estranged. However, like I'm imagining that this must have been a pretty jarring situation, and he ended up like reaching out to my dad, who, and apologized for certain things and was like, I'd like to talk to Tasha, tell her to call me. I of course called, and I'm still thinking and praying and hoping everything is okay. And I sent a text. I don't know if he got them. Last I knew, I was blocked, and so I don't know, but I hope he got them and understands that even if he's not ready to talk to me, like I'm still worried about him. And what worries me the most about him is the fact that he is such an athlete. Like I've become like a lover of dance, and I'm really sad that I can only participate in limited ways at this time. But that's all his identity has always been. He's always been very, very sporty with the bikes, with the working out at the gym, having a home gym, like snowboarding, surfing. He's always, done a lot of softball coaching with his daughter, a lot of football practice with his son. Like he's always been a very athletic person, which I think will be such an asset in his own personal recovery of this. But I also understand like the psychology of losing that in this abrupt fashion. So while, like I say, I'm like, I don't know if it's like a sympathy pain, like we aren't twins or anything, but it's like, I was like, it's so weird, it's just ironic that like, obviously I'm not having a broken hip or anything like that. Like his is way more extreme and way more serious. But I'm like, I wonder if there's some kind of connection there with that too, because, we were very close at points of our lives. And, to have like, so I think it's this compound effect. And then, his change of life is very different than my change of life, like the reason, but nonetheless, like we're going through these major changes in our lives that we didn't really want or ask for. I know for sure he did not, or anticipate, like I had no idea on the last day of my cruise that Chris would tell me like, oh, I'm moving out, your son's moving with me, and I'm not picking you up from the poor. Like what, and I mean, unbeknownst to me, he was going out on a date. Unbeknownst to me, he was already dating someone. Like unbeknownst to me, all of these things, right? Like unbeknownst to me, the whole time I was on the cruise, he was out with a girlfriend and having our kids. Just, I can't, right? Like I really have to, but like it gets me, I just don't understand. And I do in one aspect, because the urgency for him was, he wanted attention and he wanted somebody to love him, and he felt unloved and he wasn't getting attention here. And so whether or not there was any marriage, divorce papers filed, that was just a loophole or something. I don't know. So for him, there's no, it's not any form of adultery because we weren't together anymore in his eyes. When the minute I had asked him to be friends, he said he checked out, and he never understood what I meant. And it wasn't to put him in the friend zone. It was to like build from a friendship. And I just, to me, that's very enduring and like a lasting love. And that's what I wanted. And well, here we are now. So there's, a lot of things changing, and yeah, I say goodbye to a lot of things, and I'm building resilience because I'm learning how to do things that I didn't want to do. I didn't think I could do. And here I am, I'm doing it. So again, some relationships are for a season, some for a reason, and others for a lifetime. And as it turns out today, I never know what's going to happen in the future, but we were not meant to be the lifetime partners. And so at the very least, I'm really, really grateful for my 4 kids. I struggle with reaching out to people, and I think even when I do, I sometimes focus on what he's done versus how I'm doing. I think I'm so programmed into prioritizing him, um, and prioritizing his needs and his wants and things like that. And, like I got frustrated at him yesterday, and I gave him a call because I had said, please don't, like, if you want your stuff, I have no problem about that, but let me know so I can communicate with the kids. I didn't want them to see it. And, it was just like, instead of him understanding, like, it was as if I was attacking him. He's, I don't want to hear your lectures. I don't need to know about it. Like, it doesn't even matter. If you don't want me to have my stuff, just throw it away. And I was like, that's not what I'm saying. Why are you getting mad? All I'm trying to do is advocate for the kids. I can imagine that this is hard for them. I can imagine that seeing things disappear, and picking and choosing what disappears, and it's not like they're a part of the equation. It's not like it's like photos of them or something like that. It has an effect. I mean, it affects me. Like, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that's where his computer used to be, or that's where this used to be. And then it's gone. And then to also have my son be the packer of it when I'm like, I said, you can come get your stuff. And all I'm asking is for you to let me know when. And, that is, for some reason not okay. But when he comes to like drop off Tyler, then he's like, okay, give me stuff or whatever. Like, I don't know. I just asked him not to do that. He gets mad at that. And so again, I'm like, well, that's why we're here, right? Like, we can't communicate. He doesn't see what I'm seeing. All I'm trying to do is protect my kids. I could care less if you please take the computer desk. I don't want it in my living room anymore. Like, I want to use that space to hopefully, I'm going to let you know this though. This is the exciting part, right? So again, as some things change, other things change too, right? So where his whole office was, I'm hoping, right? Maybe I can create a space here that is not in the corner of my room, with little Buddha. Maybe Buddha's kind of calm though. I feel like Buddha's been a G. Buddha's been with us this whole time, so Buddha might be a part of it somehow. But just something that more matches my personality. This used to be my daughter's room, hence the purple walls. Yeah, I again, I'm like, maybe I'll paint them or do something like that. But I really think I would really like to just have another space where I'm like, this is where I do my recording. This is my home. I'm not just a squeeze in here and a squeeze in there. So I do think that there are positives. Like, there is so much more peace within the house. Although when I hear the garage door open, I still have a little bit of PTSD because I don't know who or which version of him is going to walk in. And I'm like, like, I feel it. Like, just now our garage opened. I think my son, or no, my daughter just left, so I can see the car. I was like, it still gives me a little bit of like angst when I hear it. So eventually my new normal will settle in and I won't feel anxiety when I hear that anymore. And that's a plus, right? And maybe he won't feel anxiety walking in, and that's a plus for him. So at the end of the day, the most beautiful thing would be two happy and healthy parents for our kids. Now, if we can't be happy and healthy together, then maybe being happy and healthy apart is the best thing. And as challenging as this is for me, and as challenging as it is for him, I do have to believe that we will both get through this. But I just want you to know that it is okay if you are feeling angst and stress and overwhelm and worry in your process. But know and go back to, so this is what I have to keep reminding myself, because that default setting wants to come in where it's like, oh my gosh, to really like take some time, take that walk outside, spend some time in the sun, getting a little bit of vitamin D if you can, do your meditation, do your daily dose of dysregulation in that shower, keeping those foundational elements to you, like I am having to remind myself to do, even in the chaos, reminds me that there is peace. There can be peace. And if I focus on all the complications and the difficult things and how hard it is, that is what I'll see. But if I focus on the beauty and being able to find moments for myself, I may not, like as of right now, I'm not going to 5 dance classes a week, right? I get 3, but I'm going to really rock those 3 as best as I can, because I know that that's all I have for right now. And a time will come and a time will change, and I will be back at my 5 a day or not. This is a new chapter and new things have to happen, and I need to conserve gas. I'm not going to go all the way down there for one class and add that burden onto my bill. And so what I'll do is I'll find other alternatives, and it may not look as I had always wanted or thought it would, but I do believe that it is going to look exactly the way it's supposed to. And so today, this is your reminder that it's okay to feel upset or confused as things change. But just remember, as I was remembering here, that every day you get through it, you are one day wiser and 24 hours stronger. And, I've already built up 7 days of wisdom, and I don't know what 24 times 7 is, hours worth of strength. And I think that that's going to continue to keep me going and moving forward as I adjust and process this thing, and also be a support system for my kids, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, everything that is upon my shoulders right now. So I say all this to say thank you so much for being here and being part of this journey. I really hope you're not going through anything like this. Like, I don't wish anybody to, but if you are, I just am here to say you're not alone. And whatever you're experiencing, as confusing and as upsetting and as maybe happy even as it is, it's all okay. There's nothing wrong with the way you're doing it, how you're doing it. If you need a day to lay your butt in bed, lay your butt in bed. Like, if you need to get up and run, get up and run. But don't hide from the emotion. Nobody wants to feel the pain. Think I want to sit here crying yesterday for 30 minutes and then get off and cry more, and then before that cry some more? No, I didn't want to do any of that. But I understand that it is a part of the process. And sitting within that pain is where we learn to grow. So I say all this to say, please, 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 please go out there, give somebody a big smile, give them a compliment, and just watch how they glow up. So my compliment to you today is this. Thank you so much for investing in yourself. Whatever it is that you're doing, to take time to even consider alternative things, you are investing in yourself. And I'm so proud of you. You are beautiful, you are wise, and you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Thank you so much. Bye.